You're listening to Awards Magnet, a Gold Derby podcast. Subscribe weekly for new episodes during Emmys and Oscar season, interviews with top awards contenders, and special monthly mailbag episodes. Email us at slugfests@goldderby.com. Now, on to the show. Mike Birbiglia is an Emmy nominee. His latest comedy special is Mike Birbiglia, The Good Life, which can be seen on Netflix. Mike, how are you? Nice to meet you. This is great. I love the special.
Thanks so much. Yeah, I'm here. I'm here in the Working It Out podcast studio. Got all the joke cards on the wall, and yeah, in New York City. And these are all. If you've watched the podcast on YouTube before, you know that these are basically all jokes that are in process. And now that The Good Life is done, I'm in the process of taking down the jokes from The Good Life and putting up new jokes for what may be the next special.
So that was one of the great questions I had for you. Or hopefully, it was like the special opens like you're walking with your daughter, and she asks you what the good life means, right?
Yeah.
Cannabis shop, right? And you were like, and I guess so I wanted to ask, like, in terms of your process, like, when that interaction happens, do you immediately recognize it as something that you could turn into like the thesis maybe of your special, or are you already thinking of these ideas and that just is like crystallizes it for you and helps you kind of like contextualize it further?
I think, like, David Sedaris is like one of my favorite writers, and the way he describes it is very similar to my process. Is I just write down everything. I jot down anything that is peculiar or odd, and then as I write in my journal, and then I'll see like a few weeks later when I look back, like, does that connect with this? Does that connect with this? And does that connect with this other thing? And yeah, that was a thing where I'm walking my daughter, who at the time was 8 years old, and we walked by a cannabis shop, and it's called The Good Life. She goes, "Dad, what's the good life?" And I just thought that phrase was so evocative. Dad, like, what's the good life? You just go, oh, like the double entendre of that is like so powerful, because it's also like so absurd. I don't even like riff on this in the special. It's so absurd that a cannabis shop is owning that phrase. They're just like, yeah, we're the good life. What we're doing is the good life. It's like, is it? I don't know.
It's so good. So then the other thing, obviously, like, yeah, the special obviously is about you being a parent, and then also you're like kind of like, I guess we're probably around the same age, I would imagine. I don't even know, but my daughter is like 7, and I have older parents as well. So I'm like, I feel like we're a sandwich generation, whatever you want to call it. Right?
Yes,
like
I've heard that term used. Yeah, sandwich generation.
Right?
Yeah.
And I guess, like, how do you decide you want to tackle these personal ideas or these issues, like personal stuff in your material, and like how far you want to go with it?
I started writing this exactly 2 years ago after I finished The Old Man in the Pool. And it was really like, I feel like stand-up comedy is always best when it is whatever you're obsessed with. And my obsession at that moment was this thing of like the good life. Like, how do you answer your child's questions when you don't necessarily know the answers? Like, I was starting to hit that age where I was like, oh man, I guess I don't. Like, I was really knocking it out of the park when she was 5 with the answers. But now that she's 8, like, I don't know all the answers. I don't know how to explain drugs. And then the thing happened with my dad about a year into touring. My dad has a stroke, and she goes, "Dad, what's a stroke? And is Grandpa going to be okay?" And I said, "I don't know, and that was when I was like, well, let me try to say this on stage and see if I can find the comedy in it. That's really, like, if you look at like all of my specials, like, that's really the challenge behind every one, is like, how can you take a life-threatening sleepwalking disorder and make that funny? How can you talk about having bladder cancer and make that funny, etc.? And it's like, if you can, that's like the ultimate, I think, like, comedy handshake with the audience. And if you can't, then you just have to find another topic. You know what I mean?
Yep. In this special, obviously, too, and it's like you said, like, it's indicative of your work, where it's like hilariously funny 1 second, and then you could hear like a pin drop in the audience where it's like you're doing like with sincerity of like, or just emotion, right? Like, there was like, and you kind of like turn on a dime. And I think you, like, I guess, have you gotten better at that, do you feel like, or being able to balance that, like you're saying, of like making sure it's like funny, but also you're able to talk about these serious subjects, and the audience will come with you, I guess, as well. So like, do you feel like you've improved at that aspect of your storytelling?
I've developed a relationship with my audience where I trust them now to be okay with it, and they trust me to take some big swings emotionally. I think it is symbiotic at this point. I also think like there is a degree to which, as a comedian, if what you're saying is funny, the audience will go there. If it's moving, the audience will go there. And if it's boring, comedically or dramatically, they won't. You know what I mean? So it's like it really is a fine line. And like in the development process, you do have to use trial and error and try things that like just might not hit people. And that was definitely part of the process. But Ira Glass, host and producer of This American Life, he was a story consultant on this, and he listened to the show maybe 9 months ago. I sent him the audio, and he basically was saying the thing you're describing, which is like the quiet moments. He's like, it needs like 2 or 3 more quiet moments so that the audience can catch up with the emotion that they're probably experiencing already.
How much rehearsal, how much dedication or discipline does it take to make it feel like you are literally just doing this for the first time for the audience?
I think part of that is, my director, Seth Barish, and I have like a kind of a mantra that we say before almost every show, which is just tell them the story. So in other words, like when I walk on stage, I'm going out, and whatever words come out, they come out. Whatever happens that night is what happens on stage. And I feel like he and I are very, very committed to that idea that I think the reason it feels spontaneous is like it is oddly spontaneous, even though I've said a lot of the words a lot of times. I'm also open to like on that given night, I might say it different. So like in the taping, there's that moment where I have a Freudian slip and I go, I'm talking about my dad, and I meant to say he wasn't my doctor because he's a doctor. But then I go, he wasn't my dad. It's just like, Jesus, I can't believe. And then I literally said, filming the special, I go, okay, maybe that's not going to be the special. That is the Freudian slip of all time. And then when we got to the edit, we're like, no, that's so cool. Our editor, Jeff Richmond, is amazing. He edits Severance, and he edited my movie Don't Think Twice and Sleepwalk with Me. I've worked with him for years and years. But we got in the edit with Jeff, and Jeff was like, I don't know how you could not use that.
You're taping this over multiple nights, right?
3 nights, yeah. 3 at the Beacon Theater, yeah.
How do you like, the audience is going to be jazzed, they're coming for you, but how does the audience's like response to the material impact your performance of the material, I guess?
I mean, the audience has a hugely symbiotic relationship with every show. To your point, like when the silent moments are actually silent, like you can feel it in the room, and when there's 2,700 people in a room and everyone's silent at the same time, it's really powerful. And when everyone laughs at the same time, it's powerful. So like in that way, it's very significant. And then the thing I do in the show that's the audience interaction, where I say who's been married the longest and I ask them for marriage advice, that's different every night. And those people, people seeing the special, those people are, they might as well be audience plants. They're like this like 75-year-old couple, and their names are Jan and Anne, and they have hilarious like marriage advice, and they're great. But that's different every night.
Does the response to a laugh, or like you're saying, like the silence or something, does that even like, does it surprise you ever, like, or how does it help inform maybe how you perform it the next time because of like how a certain reaction happens?
Yeah. A lot of times the process of touring the show, because I toured the show over 2 years in 70 cities.
Right.
Sometimes 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shows in a city. So I probably performed this like at least 400 times. And so I would say every night is different. I think a lot of times I'm figuring out what's the funniest part of what I'm talking about. And then I'm figuring out what is the part that connects with people the most. Like one of the things I realized one night is I have this line on stage where I say, my dad and I would have these long political disagreements when I was in my 20s. And one of them got so bad, he when I left their house, he didn't say goodbye. He just said, "Well, you've gone another way." And I had this epiphany where I thought, like, my whole life I sort of wanted to be my dad, and at a certain point I had decided I wanted him to be me. And when I wrote that, I was like, that's something that feels real to me. But until I did it in front of an audience, I didn't know that that was like a somewhat of a universal. And then I was like, okay, that should stay in the show.
The special is about like your father and then like you being a father, right? And I guess like, did you get like new, like watching the special? I was like, oh man, like I'm like I feel almost I was sad thinking about like when I'm just a dick to my daughter sometimes, right? Because you're not like, you know what I mean? Like it's
Right, when you're not your best.
too, right?
Yeah, sure.
And I'm like, man, like, what is she gonna like? I was just rewatching it too before we did this. And like, when you're like yelling, your dad yelling for his goddamn keys, right? And I'm like, oh my God, like, what is that gonna be for my daughter? And reflecting on your father for this special, like, not change, but like make you consider your own parenting, I guess.
What it made me think a lot about how I didn't view my dad for most of his life, and he's still alive, but like for most of his life, I didn't view him as a human being. I just viewed him as this like mythological creature. And like I have to keep that in mind with my daughter is like that, yeah, you know, you have to do your best to express kindness. And also like the more I was meditating on the idea, what I realized was that a majority of what my parents taught me was just observed behavior from the child watching the parent. So much of stuff that I watched, I say in the show, I go, if you're selfish, your kids know you're selfish. If you're kind, they know you're kind. And it's like, honestly, that's like a realization through writing the show. I mean, that's what's so odd about the experience of this show. Well, two things. One is it's the first show I ever wrote where the drama of the story I'm telling is going on in real time. So I'm still living with my dad having had an acute stroke. I'm still living with being confounded by being a parent. So the thing that you're responding to where you're like, oh, you feel like in the moment, it's like, I'm too in the moment. You know what I mean? Like, I wish I weren't so in the moment. Some of it, I'm living in such a hard way. And it's like, and that's it. But in a way, like, I think that's the gift that you can give the audience to be like, you know what? I'm not resolved, but I'm going to share this unresolved feeling with you. And if you are into it.
Obviously, your specials are very personal, right? Like you're talking about like personal, like your personal life. Is there stuff that you're just like, actually, I'm not going to do this? Do you actually try to, do you put up a wall at all in certain things or no?
I always try to make myself the most of the joke.
Right.
In other words, the joke is on me a majority of the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's me being an idiot, me not understanding things. It's not a lot of me being like, that guy's an idiot, she's a dummy. You know what I mean? It's just not what I'm interested in. And I have to say, like, the process of writing this show was really cathartic for me personally because like I said, I had my whole life I spent trying to understand this mythological creature that was my dad. And as like a writer, the most interesting thing you can do is try to understand someone. And so I had to try to understand my dad. And I actually think I came away kind of with a deeper, more loving understanding of my dad.
That's really great to hear, actually. It's really nice.
Yeah,
Do you
I'm
like,
glad.
do you show like your parents, like obviously the special's out now on Netflix or will be out, we're recording Charlotte. Do you show like would your parents watch this? Like, or do you like, I can't imagine your daughter's going to watch this, but like not, like you would
No, I
show her
don't.
eventually, right? Like,
It's so funny when Nathan Lane, who's been, a supporter of my work for so many years, he presented my first solo show, Sleepwalk with Me, in 2008 at the Bleecker Street Theater. And I think in so many ways, like, sort of legitimized me in New York City theater. And that I think in a lot of ways allowed me to do off Broadway and Broadway. But Nathan has been always so supportive. And he said to me when he saw the show at the Beacon, he goes, I think you should show it to your dad. And I was like, I don't want to kill him. You know what I mean? I don't want him to see the special and die. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just afraid of what effect it would have on him. But Nathan thought, he goes, no, it's very affectionate. It's very loving. I think that if I were him, I would want to hear those things from my son about me.
I feel like it was. I mean, I feel like that too, because I think there's a version of this special, maybe if you had a different relationship with your dad or something, where your maybe expectations are it's going to be like, my dad was an asshole or blah, blah, blah. But it's not like that at all. You know what I mean? Like, it is actually like very warm hearted, I think. And like, it feels like you know your dad better than like obviously anybody else would, right? Because he's your dad. So like, I feel like that comes through in the special where you understand his not flaws, but like the different generation or whatever. You know what I mean? I think it does come through really.
Oh, thanks. I'm definitely still considering it. I'm trying to come to grips with that.
Yeah, but yeah, one of the starts I love, obviously as a father with a young daughter myself, as a father of daughters. I was like the runner you do about kids' birthday parties.
Oh my God.
Holy shit, that really spoke to me. And people I know who watched it also were like, this is too real. Calling all the dads losers. I do that in real life with my friends here in town because all the dads are losers. I don't know. The
dads are losers. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's happened to dads. They're all losers.
The real epidemic of losers.
We've lost dads. We've lost dads.
Dads are done. Write them off.
Dads are over.
Present company obviously excluded.
Dad is over party.
And then the urban air thing. Now I live in New Jersey. We have something called Sky Zone here, which is very similar.
They go by many names. They go by many names. And these adventure parks.
They're all horrible, obviously, as you can tell in the special. And I guess like, man, that was just I was like, just wrote down like talk about urban air. I just found that whole section so funny. And I guess first
of all, I'm never going there again.
Well,
I don't think they're gonna love seeing me. I think there might be a photo of me when you walk in that says "Do not let this person in," because I make fun of them so much. And I have to keep pointing out, and it's a joke, and it's a satire, and it's a joke, because that's the thing that protects comedians, of course. But I mean, I just think like the things that I can't believe we let kids go to these places that have it feels like an accident trap.
It's funny to me also because we're in such I mean, obviously. Grew up in like the 80s, like it was a different time. We were parents were a lot more laissez-faire, and so now it's everybody's like a helicopter parent or always like very on top of their children. I feel like in a good way, probably because maybe my parents' generation or your parents' generation was not as focused on the safety aspect. But this particular thing, you just send your child to this event and they just fly around.
It doesn't make any sense.
Makes no sense at all.
So they have all like the American Gladiator sticks where the kids are whacking each other with it. They're, the kids are stuck under rusty trampolines. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't at all. And the other thing I wanted to flag, obviously, in the special is you meet the Pope. You have a whole thing.
They met the Pope,
who's sadly passed away in the time since your special aired, I guess. Or
I mean, it was
recorded.
And honestly, like, I feel like in some ways, look, I trash Catholicism a lot in the special, and I feel like I'm allowed to do that because I was raised as an altar boy. I did the whole Massachusetts 80s Catholic school thing. And so I feel like I'm entitled to make the jokes. That being said, meeting Pope Francis was very moving. And I think it was very inspirational. I think he was a very deeply kind of loving and compassionate person who wanted change for the Catholic Church. And he wanted progressive ideas and blessing gay couples and welcoming divorced couples back into the church and all these things that sort of you would go, well, of course, but actually there's a faction of people who do not want that to be the case. And so I say in the special, like, in case you don't know this Pope, he's pretty good, but only compared to other popes. Like if you met him at a party, you'd be like, this fucking guy, but compared to popes, he's amazing. I mean, some of the popes were literally Nazis, so.
Even hearing you talk about it in the special and here, I feel like that, and like similar, like you have a compassion, you have a very, you're not like punching down, I feel like, ever in the material. I just found that I find that like really rewarding to watch, I think, and it just makes it, it's just nice. I don't know, for lack of a better word.
Thank you.
I think it's good. It's really good. So you mentioned like you have all the index cards there or the Post-it notes and stuff behind you.
Yeah.
For the next, so now like, how far into it for your next special? Like, how far into this are you at this point?
Wait, hold on. This is a funny thing I can show you. This is part of the backdrop of the canvas.
Oh wow!
For the set. I mean, we basically what happened was uh, Beowulf Barrett designed the set, who's a two-time Tony Award winner. He's a brilliant guy. We've worked with him on all, 6 of my shows. And he enlisted this woman, Irina Portagina, who's a Ukrainian painter, who painted this like 40-foot tall like sunset. Wow. And it's unbelievable.
It looks gorgeous in this special.
And so, and I don't even know if literally, like, I don't know if comedians ever done like a canvas painting behind them that's like 40 feet tall. But anyway, afterwards, we didn't know what to do with the painting. Nobody's house is this big, like nobody's. And so we cut it into 100 pieces, and I'm gonna put some up on my wall here, and then we're gonna auction some of them off for charity, some of the squares.
Visually, like, what was the impetus behind that for you, I guess, to have it look like that?
Well, we talked about, me and Seth Barish, my director, Aaron Kopp, our lighting designer, and Beowulf Barrett talked about all different kind of approaches to kind of the good life. What represents the good life. And so we started to talk about like all different kinds of paintings. There was a point at which we were like, what if it was, I think Beowulf said, like, what if it was the Sistine Chapel behind you? And it was kind of like, well, you can't, as a comedian, you can't compete with that. You can't have the Sistine Chapel be like, and then there's me, you know what I mean? Like, I have some thoughts. And so Beowulf had this idea of what if it was this kind of sunrise, sunset painting that based on light, that Aaron Kopp so brilliantly designed, would kind of evolve and change through the course of the show. And then it plays off musically really well with the Red Hearse, my friend Jack Antonoff's band Red Hearse's song called Half Love. And it really came together because, like, you take the Pope stuff, for example, where I'm in the Vatican and, like, I'm behind this incredible painting. So it's very evocative of like of kind of classic paintings, and it kind of just takes on different forms. And then of course it takes on the form of I'm walking in the forest with my dad on this wooded path, and it's essentially right behind me. So it's similar to Old Man in the Pool in that way, where the set design takes on different meanings at different points in the show.
With this too, is it like in terms of the creation of it, I guess, like how does that work? Like, you're getting this painted, right? It's not like a print, so that person is painted.
That's right.
The woman's name.
Irina, she flew in from Eastern Europe to do this. I think it took her a month. I think it was a month-long painting.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah, it's wild.
It's wild.
No, we're very ambitious with these. We're very ambitious with these specials.
For you, is it paramount to have the theater, like the audience performing to it live, and then like is that the focus, or is it like how will this also look on Netflix?
This is the first time. With the other shows, we were doing it both for Netflix and also for Broadway and off-Broadway audiences. For this, it was the first time we were like, it's for the live audience, but really it comes down to this, like, because we're only filming 3 nights, we're performing 6 shows. And so it really was. And so I think visually it's the most spectacular of the specials. And I credit that to Seth and Aaron and Beowulf and Irina.
On stage, are you in real time like this? We should make sure this portion of the show is in the special, like during the performance. You know what I mean? Like in terms of like the actual, like one of the 6 times, like, oh, this one should definitely be in. Like, how do you think of it?
You mean of the sections of the lines in the show?
Because like I'm assuming like you're piecing it to. Are you piecing it together from like the performances, right? Or no? Or is it one continuous?
We're piecing it together from the performances, but basically we circle take on one of the performances, and then basically if we find like we'll watch the other ones, like if the camera was nicely in focus or was on the move at that point, we'll experiment with dropping that in.
Okay.
Sometimes phrasings are just right one night. Sometimes the timing is just right, and you go, oh, it would be great to do that, but there's kind of like a butterfly effect with that, and that doesn't work over here. But like Jeff is unbelievable. Like we did my first movie Sleepwalk with Me together in 2000, and we did it in 11 for 2012, and he really in so many ways like taught me how to understand film and how to edit film. I mean, it's just an unbelievable editor. I recommended him to Ben Stiller, who's my friend and has been really supportive over the years. And then Ben used him for Escape at Dannemora, and then Severance. And then I think they're working on some other stuff too. Like he's a truly remarkable. I'm honestly like, I feel like part of the reason I'm so lucky in my pursuit of what I've made over the years is that you every now and then you work with someone who's just magical and they're so good at what they do, and you're just like, oh, can we please work together on like everything? And I just feel that way about like all my collaborators on this.
It's so good. And this is a really great special. I know we have to wrap up. The Good Life, Mike Birbiglia on Netflix. You can watch it. Thank you, Mike, for doing this.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks for listening to Awards Magnet, a Gold Derby podcast. Like what you heard? Leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts. Awards Magnet is produced by Andrew Merrill. Our logo is designed by Chelsea Sikora. Please like and subscribe to stay on top of all the awards news and email us at slugfests@goldderby.com.